Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. So in this video, we're going to discuss Leetcode problem of the day, and today's problem is palindromic substrings and it is a medium layer problem. So the problem basically says that we have been given a string S and we have to find the total number of palindromic substrings in it, and we all know the definition of a palindrome. It is a string which reads the same when even if you write it in reverse order, right? And we also know what is a substring. A substring is basically some sequence of characters within a string and it should be contiguous, right? Now the string length is only up to 1000, and that basically means we can go up to n square, right? So if the string length is 1000, we can go up to n square. That basically means I can take two pointers I and j, try to form all the substrings and try to find whether this is a palindromic substring or not. So to find all the substrings, my loop will be n square, right? So there were actually two parts to it. So let me just write it for you for better understanding. The very first thing I observed was n is roughly equals to 1000, right? So I can form n square loop, right? So with n square I can form all substrings, not all substrings basically, and to be more precise, not all substrings exactly, but rather the starting and ending point of each substring, right? So this is what I'll be able to form within an n square loop, right? So I'll not be able to form the exact substring because creating a substring takes time in itself and that might exceed our time limit, right? But what we can definitely do is we can try to form the starting and the ending points of each substring. So I can have two for loops I and j, and with these for loops I and j I can try to form the what is the starting point and ending point of all the possible substrings in my given string. Now with these things in mind, my task is to find, right? Now my task will be to determine whether a string from I to j is a palindrome or not. More importantly, I need to find it in O of 1, right? So because I've already used the n square thing to calculate these substrings and calculate the starting and ending points I and j, I also need to find whether it is a palindrome or not, but I only have O of 1 time for it now, right? So how can we actually do it? If you carefully look at a palindrome, so let me just write some palindromes A, B, C, B, A. Let's say this is a palindrome, right? Now what is the special property of palindrome if I have this starting point I and j, right? The very first thing is these I and j characters, that means the characters position I and j should be equal, right? And the second thing if you observe is that this thing individually is also a palindrome, right? That basically means, let me just reiterate this particular part. If I have a string like this, palindrome string like this, the very first thing is the character at position I, that is the starting position, and the character at position j, which is the ending position, should be the exact same. Otherwise it can never be a palindrome because we have found at least one character which is not the same, right? Now we can also say that if we remove these two characters from the end, then the remaining string should also be a palindrome. So if we are somehow able to keep track whether this internal string is a palindrome or not, we can definitely tell whether this whole string will be a palindrome in O of 1 time, right? Because now we just have to check only one character, that is the ending characters. If you already know that this is a palindrome, this central string is a palindrome, we can just check whether these two characters are same or not, right? So let me just give you an example. Let's say we already have C and this is a palindrome, right? Now I add B to it on both sides. So I know that C is a palindrome and these two characters are same. That basically means this whole string is a palindrome. Now let's say I add A and A to it. Now I know that this central string is a palindrome and these two characters are same. That means this whole string is also a palindrome. Now let me add B and E to it. Now I know that this central string is a palindrome, but these two characters are not same. That basically means this whole string is not a palindrome now, right? So this is how you can basically figure out at which string is palindrome or not. So let's say if I had a is palindrome function to calculate, or is palindrome vector is palindrome, I'm just going to have it of size I and j. You can also name it dp, it doesn't really matter here. Many people will also use the name dp, but this palindrome is better denoting what the purpose of this particular double dimensional vector is. Now you will see that I want to figure out, if I am at points I and j, I want to calculate whether this string starting from I and ending at j is a palindrome or not. I need to also know the answer for is palindrome I plus 1 and j minus 1, right? So if you are using recursion, then it is not a problem, but if you are using iterative dp or iterative thing to calculate this particular is palindrome function, then you will have to think a little bit, how do I write the for loops, right? So you can clearly see that I is depending upon I plus 1 and j is depending upon j minus 1, right? These are the two things that I have. So I know that I need to start my I loop in reverse order, and I need to start my j loop in forward order, j is less than n and j plus plus, right? This is how my for loops are going to look like. So you'll have to be careful about this particular thing and write your for loops accordingly. If you're using a recursive approach, then you are fine, you don't have to think about this. But if you're using an iterative approach, you'll have to see that I is depending upon I plus 1, that is why I have like written the I loop in reverse order, and j is depending upon j minus 1, that is why we need to write the j loop in forward order starting from I. Right? Why is this particular j starting from I? Because we are talking about strings, right? So the ending point of string can at least be the starting point of the string. It cannot go less than the starting point of the string. This is the basic logic. That is why we start this particular j from I itself, right? Now if I show you the code, then everything will be much clearer to you. You can see that I have first of all initialized n with the string size, and I have created an is palindrome vector of size n cross n, and my answer is going to be 0 initially. Now these are the two for loops that I have already discussed. If I is equals to j, that means this can be a base case, because the string consists of only one character, and I definitely know this is going to be a palindrome. So I mark is palindrome of ij as 1 and I increment my answer. Now if s of I is equals to s of j and either of these conditions are satisfied, so you see I have an or in between, right? So what is the first condition? Let us see. The first condition is I is equals to j minus 1. That means a and a. Let's say this is I and this is j. So I is equals to j minus 1. That means the string only has two characters, and we have already checked that s of I is equals to s of j. So that basically means the string has two characters and those two characters are equal, right? So that means this particular ij should be a palindrome. Or if the string has more characters, that means this is a case like this. When I is not equal to j minus 1, I have to check whether this I plus 1 and j minus 1 string is a palindrome or not, right? So I check is palindrome I plus 1 j minus 1. So basically what I do here is, first of all I check the characters at s and j, right? So if those are equal, I check these two conditions, right? There can be two cases, either the string is of length 2, which is this first case, or the string is of length greater than 2, then this particular case. If it is of length 2, then I don't need to check anything else. If it is of length greater than 2, then I need to check whether the central string between these two characters is a palindrome itself or not, right? Only when it is a palindrome we are going to move inside this part where we mark palindrome of ij as 1 and we increment our answer, right? So this is how you can figure out what are all the palindromic strings and you can add it to your answer. Now you don't need to increment your answer here. You can also like make another two for loops and find all the ij where it is a palindrome and find your answer. But basically this is palindrome vector will now have for all the coordinates I and j whether the string starting from I and ending at j is a palindrome or not, right? You can increment your answer here, or you can make another for loop to increment your answer. That is your choice. At the end you can just return your answer value and this would be the final solution. So let me just quickly submit this and show you that this particular code works and the solution is absolutely correct. So you see this passes all the test cases and the solution is correct. I hope that you guys were able to understand the solution, and if you guys did, then do consider dropping a like on this video. Don't forget to share thoughts in the comments, because your engagement with this video really helps the YouTube algorithm to understand that this video is actually helpful for you and it will be able to reach much more people like you who want to keep solving new problems. So that is it for today. Till the next video drop, keep coding, stay safe, bye bye.